right now, Chase Young, that front four for Washington can present a lot of problems for the best of football teams. I think they'll present enough problems for Philadelphia that they win the game and they get on in the playoffs.
Going over to the Ravens, Neek, in or out?
I think they're in. They just have to beat the Bengals. I know the 4-10 record might suggest that this is an easy game, but the Bengals have been playing better as of late. And we're going to need Lamar Jackson to make big plays because that's what they need for their offensive score. But more importantly, they got 3 defensive backs that are on the injury report: Marlon Humphreys, Peters, and Jimmy Smith. They need those guys back to be good on D.
Lewis, the Dolphins, in or out?
Yeah, I love this football team, but I'm going to say they're going to be out. I just think they're going to struggle to go up to Buffalo and win against a hot Buffalo team that right now has its eyes set on a Super Bowl berth and a rematch with the Kansas City Chiefs. And I just believe that, Baker Mayfield is going to play well enough to win against Pittsburgh. I believe that Phillip Rivers is going to play well enough to win against Jacksonville. So I think the Browns and the Colts are going to get in there, and Miami's going to be on the outside looking in.
All right, so let's go to the Browns then. Neek, in or out?
And Lou stole my thunder. I mean, I can't. He already told y'all that the Browns are going to be in. I absolutely agree with him. He's right. I think the Browns, they should get their receivers back, and hopefully after last week's debacle, they'll beat a team that they should beat in the Steelers when the Steelers are resting their starters. And it's important to note, the Steelers are looking at the playoffs, so the game planning will not be at the highest level either. So the Browns better win this game.
Okay, and FPI kind of agrees with you. According to FPI, Cleveland has a 53% chance of reaching the playoffs, but advancing is another story. They have a 16% chance of reaching the division round and just a 3% chance of getting to the AFC Championship. Less than 1% of getting to the big game even. So, Adam, I want to start with you. The Cleveland Browns reopened their facility for practice on Wednesday afternoon after they closed it earlier in the day due to contact tracing. What's the latest there?
Well, again, Ryan, it's open now, as of now. But again, there are concerns there because the virus has spread. It has hit certain coaches. It has hit certain players. It wiped out their wide receiver unit before they played the Jets game last week. And obviously, it has been a battle to try to contain that virus in Cleveland. And you could almost say that the only thing that stands in the way of Cleveland making its first postseason appearance in almost 2 decades is the virus at this point in time. Because the Pittsburgh Steelers, their opponent this Sunday that they have to beat, they're resting Ben Roethlisberger. They're resting Marquise Pouncey. They're resting Cameron Hayward. They're resting T.J. Watt. They're resting a bunch of players. They're essentially taking their bye week in the 17th week of the season at a time where Cleveland is on the docket and Cleveland needs to win the game. Cleveland could not get a more ideal time to get the Pittsburgh Steelers. Right now is the time. It's set up perfectly for Cleveland if it can control the virus that has spread through the organization. If it can do that, then Cleveland could be on the way to the postseason for the first time in almost 2 decades and obviously validate Kevin Stefanski as a prime candidate for the NFL Coach of the Year.
And controlling the virus has been the biggest wild card for every team this year. So I want to bring back in the guys. And, Lewis, it's interesting. You played for the Browns the last time they won a playoff game. And I want to talk about the bigger picture on the Browns, but then I also want to focus on this. We saw last week Baker Mayfield, end of the game, didn't work out. Game on the line, close game against the Steelers, season on the line. Does Baker Mayfield pull it out?
Yeah, I believe he does. And I think it's more than just does Baker Mayfield pull it out. I think it's does this team stay on schedule and stay true to who they are? Because if they can, then Baker will pull it out. And by that I mean this. Look, this is still a run-centric football team. This is a team that's built to back, that has a very strong offensive line, 2 strong, vicious, physical runners, and a play-action passing game that when everything runs through the run game, and I don't mean that you have to be 3 yards in a cloud of dust, but look, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are very good. This offensive line is very good. Baker is then very good when Kevin has a nice rhythm between the run and play-action pass. If all their receivers are there, this football team is as dangerous as any on the offensive side of the ball. We've seen them light up good defenses. We've seen them put points on the board. When they get off schedules, when things get sideways, when the running game all of a sudden falters or they move away from it, and this becomes just a drop-back football team, then it can get sideways for them. They're also a football team that needs to play with the lead. They need to play from ahead so where then Olivier Vernon and Myles Garrett can get after quarterbacks. If they can do kind of things, look, Cleveland in this very unique season, they could beat anybody if they can play to that kind of schedule and stay on schedule like that, which is why I think, in this unique offseason, you cannot count out anyone. And Cleveland is a sneaky good football team, but they need to stay true to who they are.
Okay, I'm hearing some sound in the background. Somebody's getting fired up over the Browns, I can tell you that. Hey,
it's a dogfight. It's a dogfight.
That's what it's going to be in this game.
The
so
Browns
Nick, I have
are in
to
a
ask
dogfight.
you more than that.
Well, whose house do you think that is?
Whose? You tell me.
That's in the studio.
What's going on over there, Schefter?
Perfect. That's what I want to ask. What is going on over there?
He's just sitting there shaking his head. He's just like, I'm not going to say a word. I'm not going to
Listen, here's the deal, basically. If you hear dogs barking on air, if there are dogs barking on air, the overwhelming chances are it's my house, okay? That's the way it is.
He's just fired up over the Browns. That's the bottom line. Because Nick, he thinks he's got it. Whoever that dog is a Baker Mayfield fan. And I got to ask you, do you trust Baker Mayfield late in the game? And what does this season look like for you if they don't make the playoffs? What is this season for the Browns?
So I think this season, if they don't make the playoffs, it's the weird situation where it's a success and a disappointment. Like the way the season ends is going to be hugely disappointing. But if they've gotten over 10 wins, and I think the big questions in Cleveland coming into this season was, do we have our coach and do we have our quarterback? I think that answer has been made. Like the answer is yes to both of those questions, no matter what happens this weekend. And your quarterback is not going to be Deshaun Watson level good or Patrick Mahomes level good or Aaron Rodgers level good. That's fine. But he's a slightly above average quarterback, which is good. That means he's better than most quarterbacks in the league. And that's a good situation when things work out. So I think this season could be a success and also a disappointment. But I do think that as long as Baker doesn't have to run any quarterback sneaks, he'll be fine in late game situations, especially when the most talented and the scariest defenders that the Steelers have are going to be on the sideline in ponchos.
Yeah, that's true. And I'll tell you what,
Ryan,
go ahead.
Let me just interrupt you 1 second.
Sure, please.
The Cleveland Browns facility that reopened yesterday closed again today. More issues, more COVID concerns. So that's not good.
Well, see,
again,
this is why we can't make predictions, man. This is what I mean. Honestly,
not this year.
Honestly, honestly speaking, this could just throw everything into a tailspin for them, and that's what 2020 has been. But if they have their full complement of players, look, we saw them on national TV on Monday Night Football go toe to toe with the Ravens. And basically, it came down to the wire. And Justin Tucker, who's just an absolute sniper, a killer as far as a kicker is concerned, ends that football game. But this team is legitimate. It's just a shame that right now, as Adam has alluded to, where they are now catching the Steelers, basically taking their bye in Week 17, they may not be at full strength to go ahead and take advantage of and get on into the playoffs, which is just – it's so typical and so indicative of just how challenging this season has been. It's been unbelievable.
I tell you, it's almost like they're snake bitten. Adam, you set it up perfectly. It's almost a perfect situation for the Browns. Here they come into this game, and then what has really hampered every single team, every single sport this year, COVID-19, is really biting them right now. We will see how this plays out. All right, guys, thanks so much. I want to turn you back to a little sneaky hembo time. We were asking Mark Sanchez about this. Clemson is one of two teams to beat Ohio State in a bowl game 4 times. Mark Sanchez with us now. Which is the other?
Well, Hembo, he thinks he's sneaky, but the last time these two teams played, Ohio State got the best of USC, but I think it's USC.
You are correct.
Let's go.
But how are you not going to be correct, right?
Show me Hembo's face. Show me Hembo's face.
Look, and he says, of course, he's a homer. 4 times from 72 to 84, but he got it right. That's the key, Hembo. All right, back to the college football playoffs. Once in the discussion for the number 1 pick, the number 1 overall pick in 2021, Justin Fields is now the 3rd-ranked quarterback on Todd McShay's big board, behind Trevor Lawrence and BYU's Zach Wilson, we mentioned earlier. Fields is going to take on the Clemson team that lead the nation in defensive efficiency. Not the best setup for him. The difference, by the way, between Justin Fields' first 3 games this season and his last 3, folks, it's stark. His QBR dropped by over 20 points. His completion percentage fell nearly 30 points. And he has 5 picks in his last 3 games after being spotless in his first 3. Not the kind of trending you want to have coming to the end of the season. So, Mark, it just seems that